nice to see that everybody came back. I was actually wondering if there would be a lot of empty seats after the break. So I am Brendon Kraham. I'm going to try and slow down. I'm a fast talker, and I was just talking to Kim in my start that I use a lot of, I don't have proper English. So I'm going to try and work on that. Hopefully you either can pay attention to that or the translations will pick it up. So as it says, I am Brendon. I am the Director of Emerging Ad Products at Google. Just a quick introduction. In the role, I've been at Google about 10 years. About halfway through, I left to go to AdMob, which is the mobile ad network. I got sucked back in the acquisition, and so all in, I've been at Google about 10 years. The last 4 or so focus on our mobile search and mobile display ad products. And then, as it says, or as we, as I mentioned, focused on our emerging ad products, so the next billion-dollar ad products at Google. And I sit in between our product and our sales organization. Very passionate about mobile, care a lot about mobile, and so I know there's been an undercurrent of the conversation today about the multi-screen consumer and the importance of mobile. And so I will talk about that, hopefully put a little bit exclamation point on the importance of mobile, and then also share some of the perspectives of what we think customers need to be doing to be winning in mobile today. So starting out, I want to just ask a basic question. Who here in the room knows what percentage of traffic to their website is coming in from mobile? I see about 3 or 4 hands. So of those 3 or 4 hands, what percentage of you actually know the date when there will be more mobile traffic to your customer's website or to your website than desktop traffic? Presumably none of you. So that, to me, in and of itself is an issue, right? I think to understand the importance here, oftentimes when we think about pushing mobile or understanding how important mobile is I talk about the inflection. There's going to be a moment in the future, and in some places that future already exists, where there are more queries coming from the smartphone than there are computers or tablets. And I think that that has a significant impact not only on our business, but also for yourselves from a business standpoint. If half of your consumers showed up tomorrow and started speaking Russian, or they would only pay in Bitcoin, you would modify your behavior to adapt to that reality. Yet, again, we are seeing this all over the world. Today in the US, about 40% of our queries come from mobile. That is our public statement, so you can imagine there's probably more than that. Google is located in 64 countries around the world, and I would say half of those, we will have more mobile queries than desktop by the end of the year, and in 2015, it's game over. It is all mobile. And I think that that actually does have very, very profound consequences for the businesses that you run. Far too often what we see is that organizations do what I call shoehorning, trying to get my big fat foot in my shoe by using a shoehorn. And digital strategies are very much the same thing. You're taking ads and porting it over to mobile. You're taking landing page experiences and porting it over to mobile. And what's important to do in mobile is to actually understand what is unique and differentiated and build really good experiences and business around that. If I were to, again, ask all of you in this room, what percentage of you have a mobile marketing strategy or a mobile customer acquisition strategy or a mobile brand strategy versus your desktop, well, let me ask, does anybody here have a better mobile practice than a desktop? And again, that is the point. So when I say I want to really emphasize how important mobile is that the consumer behavior will be such in a couple years, if not already, where your business is fundamentally changed. And I think that this is very important. If you look at, and if you go to really any conference or you talk to anybody about mobile, we're going to always show, here's a couple great examples of people that are doing well in mobile. In this case, it's Waze, it's Hotel Tonight, it's Grubhub, and Runtastic. These are businesses built purely on mobile. They are lucky because they're not encumbered by all the other things that maybe the rest of us have to focus on, and that is a desktop business. And what that allows them to do is build a consumer value proposition that is built for mobile, and that is why we love them. If everyone in here, you were to open up your phone and look at either the websites that you use or the applications that you use, they are built for mobile. Presumably, none of you are going to great, really desktop sites that render on a mobile phone and being like, man, that thing is awesome. And so as you think about what is the opportunity, what is the consumer expectation, why do you use them? Why do you use those sites and applications that are really powerful? It is because they are really good. And so we all have to say and have an honest appraisal of what is the experience that we're delivering to the consumer. Is it as good as these experiences? Because that's what the consumer is asking for. And if you're not delivering that, then that's a problem. And if I were, again, to ladder back up to that there's going to be that inflection, half of your consumers are going to speak Russian, AKA come on a mobile device, and are you delivering the right experience for them? Does anyone know who that woman is? I ask a lot of rhetorical questions. That is Mary Meeker. If you do not know who Mary Meeker is, she used to be a Wall Street analyst with Morgan Stanley. She now is a partner at Kleiner Perkins, which is the VC, a big VC in Silicon Valley. And every 6 to 12 months, she puts out an Internet Trends report. If you don't see them or don't subscribe to them, I encourage that you do. They're chock full of information, lots and lots of data and research. There's one thing that always jumps out to me, or one thing that jumps out from a presentation that she gave back in 2011. And the chart actually that you see there, and she talks about basically in each big technology transformation, whether it's the mainframe to the PC to the internet to mobile, and perhaps mobile into the world of the Internet of Things will be the next one, is that there are winners and there are losers. There's wealth creation and wealth destruction that happens. That inflection happens in that technology transformation, and there are people that adapt, very Darwinian, and there are people that don't. And so the survival of the species, the survival of the business. Are you as a business going to go out of business because you're not adapting to mobile? Maybe not, but there's a missed opportunity. Now, without a shadow of a doubt, there are in the internet economy a lot of companies that are built and established in each of these trends. If you look at, and again, sorry for the more US-based reference, but if you look at Amazon or eBay or any of the travel companies, the reason they exist is because traditional companies sat on the sideline in the beginning and the dawn of the internet and said that internet thing is for the kids. We're going to wait for this thing to grow up. And now, in many ways, they've been disintermediated, right? If you look at any physical, traditional brick-and-mortar retailer in the United States and elsewhere, they're incredibly fearful, paranoid about Amazon. And so that is a simple example of where wealth creation and destruction can happen in these big technology transformations. And again, to root it back into that save the date, know when that moment's going to happen. If you do not have the best mobile strategy, know when that date is going to be, and say it's 3 months from now, 6 months from now. Chart backwards. What does it mean to have a good mobile strategy? And I've got some things that we'll talk about there that I think go into developing a good mobile strategy. You've been given research, so I'm going to spend very little time on this. I think you get the point. This mobile thing is big. There are a lot of different people using multiple devices, and they use it throughout the purchase process, whether it's for autos or any other category. And so, again, I'm going to probably just quickly glance through these because you have gotten a fair amount of research prior, and I don't want to bore you to death. One of the things, though, again, I do want to reinforce is that there's this notion, there's two terms, one that I'll introduce. One is multi-device or multi-screening, and that's the concept of sitting in front of the TV and you're using a device at the same time, and sequential usage. And sequential usage is that I start a behavior on one device and I complete it on another. And all of these examples, and what you've heard in the other conversations from the speakers prior, is that because we are multi-screen, because we have access to information at all the time, there are multiple paths and influences. As Kim talked about her friend's company, there are 52,000 different paths to purchase. You need to recognize and understand that, and that it's not one singular way that the consumer is going to absorb the content and then actually go into the dealer lot or go onto a website to make a purchase. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about how you think about measurement and attribution in the multi-device world. So now that you hopefully think, A, mobile's important and big, perhaps you don't have as big of a strategy thus far, and that it is used in the automotive research process, one of the foundational things, have that mobile site. Again, this is something we've been talking about for, at least at Google, for over 4 years, is develop a mobile site. The stat that jumps out to me and is generally very alarming is that 43% of Brazilian manufacturers do not have mobile optimized. At Google at large, when we look at our top 1,000 advertisers, we're still in that 50 to 60% do, and a lot of people do not. That is a fundamental problem, and again, if I say in 64 countries around the world that inflection is going to happen, people basically are not prepared. And what are the implications? 66% of consumers expect the websites on the smartphone to be easy to navigate, right? That is the whole point of, like, be a consumer. Go use your product and service and see how it works. And that's our expectation. 52% are less likely to engage with a company if it's not mobile optimized, and 61% of a consumer will move to another site. To root this back into my Mary Meeker slide, the wealth creation and destruction, that is essentially it. When I do a search on YouTube or Google or Facebook. I don't care what media property you purchase. If I have a choice between company A, who delivers the Uber experience or the Runtastic experience or the 99-cent taxi experience, and I have company B who is still delivering the desktop experience, I have a choice. And that is when brand preference can start to change at a very, very basic level, irrespective of whether you're trying to do lower funnel customer acquisition or upper funnel branding and awareness. And so this is a very, very important thing to get and understand, I think. So what do you do? Does anyone know, and I apologize, this is I'll date myself, and it's a very American-centric movie. Does anyone know what movie this is? Again, hopefully, maybe not a rhetorical question. War Games. The original hacker. That is early Matthew Broderick. If you do not know this movie, you probably do not ever need to see it. But if you get bored, go see War Games. He is the original hacker. And basically, the long and short of it is that he's a hacker. He gets himself into trouble. And ultimately, he saves the world in 4 minutes or less on a DOS machine right there, on dial-up internet. Or dial-up, right? I don't even think there's internet back then. There is no point here other than he saves the world in 4 minutes. I should be able to consummate the transaction, do what you want me to do on your website, your mobile website, in 4 minutes or less. That's a made-up barrier. Hopefully you can do it in less than 4 minutes. But if you can't, then that's a problem. And again, a lot of times what I find is that the easiest way to understand are you doing the right things in mobile is to just go and mess around with your mobile site. If you go through the process of trying to configure a car, where are all the friction points? Go through the lens of I am a consumer, and you will very, very quickly see all the ugly warts that exist in the current system today. And again, that is a problem. So what do you do? I think I've made my point a little bit that there's a problem. You need to focus on this. This mobile thing is big. Just this year, mid-year, we launched what I think is probably some of the most comprehensive user experience research on mobile site design. And so this was done internally by our own UX team that was not only used to help inform how we build our products at Google, but then also to share with the wider population, all of our customers. Again, this is a more widespread problem. This is a basic foundational thing. So we have this research, and basically it boils down to 25 principles in 5 buckets. What should you be doing on homepage and site navigation? How do you think about site search? Commerce and conversions, form entry, usability, and form factor. As a follow-up, we should send this out to each and every one of you. Each and every one of you should take this, share it with your IT department, and go deep on this. This is what we think actually goes into, and based on the UX and the consumer feedback, is that these are the 5 elements that matter, and then of those 5, there's 5 principles that you should be focused on. So if you either A, have a great site and you think it's a great site, it's good to cross-reference against this. And then all the way on the other end of the spectrum, if you don't have a site and you're thinking about developing one, here are some of the very basic foundational things that you should be focused on. So first and foremost, if you, if nothing else, feel that this mobile thing is important and you take one thing away, go build that thing, build it with these principles or directionally with these principles, and you're off to the races. So once we get beyond this, I want to introduce kind of a concept as it relates to attribution. And how are people measuring and evaluating the success of mobile? Because we have this supercomputer in our pocket and we can be in the physical world, we can go cross-device, and there's all kinds of new capabilities that that phone has, is that there are new paths to conversion. Oftentimes we hear from marketers is that mobile does not work as good as it does in desktop, or as sufficiently as it does in desktop. I generally measure my cost per acquisition or my cost per lead to a dealer or whatever it may be, X. I apply that same model to mobile, and either it works or it doesn't. And generally, it will not work as successfully because we think there are ultimately 5 paths to purchase. There are 5 actions that you can take on your phone, and most people are not tracking and measuring these today. As we talk about where Google is going from a strategic standpoint and where hopefully we want our customers to go with us, is that we are going to be building and developing and have already in the US and come to other markets soon, the ability to track and measure each of those 5. So on this mock example here, you can see there's a bunch of different things that you could potentially do, but I'm going to state the 5. Number 1, and the way most people are thinking about measurement and attribution today is we'll do a search. It could be a YouTube view. It could be a Facebook post, irrespective of media. I do my search, I go to the landing page, I have Google Analytics, I have Google Conversion Tracking, I have Omniture, or whatever third-party tracking software that you use. Great. Use it, track it, measure it. Done. That is what most people think. That's path one. Path two, and again, not all of these are going to apply to your business, but some of them will. Path two is this concept of sequential usage. So I started on my mobile phone, I configured my car, because this is a high ticket price item. I need to go talk to my wife for whatever reason, I go to another device. I start on my desktop and I go home to my computer at home. How do you track and measure that multi-screen behavior? We have introduced a product called cross-device conversion tracking. Has anyone heard of cross-device conversion tracking? I'm going to get in the weeds. It's a little detailed, but it's important to understand. Cross-device conversion tracking, again, Brendon searches for a new Volkswagen Passat. He goes to the hopefully nice mobile landing page for Volkswagen Passat, and then he goes back to his desktop and navigates straight to VW, configures his car, goes through the process, and hits submit. I want to go talk to a dealer, and schedules a test drive. Now, generally, you would just see that direct navigation if you're VW straight to VW.com. But with cross-device conversion tracking, we are using our signed-in users. I, Brendon, am signed in on my phone, and I do a search, and we can register that. And then if I go through the Chrome browser, and I am signed in, and I go straight to the VW site, we can now actually, in AdWords, report conversions that came from the last click on mobile. So this is a new conversion track component in AdWords. And so again, this is a new way to think about measurement, at least as it relates to cross-device. The third is application install. Today, a lot of people have apps. And if I go to a landing page for VW, and they have, sorry, I'm picking on VW, and they have an application on that site, and I hit download, and I go and configure my car and schedule a test drive and all of that, the conversion is lost because cookies do not work in applications. And so you lose that ability to track back to a specific keyword. The fourth path to purchase is calls. Many, many people have calls on their websites. Call the dealer, call a customer service representative. And those are paths to purchase. Google also has introduced a product called Calls as Conversion that should be coming to Brazil in the next couple months. And that is basically using Google 1-800 numbers where you can actually track the length of a call. So you can go into AdWords down to the keyword level and be able to see if somebody made a call or if somebody did a search, did they click on the call button on the ad, and how long was that call? And so this is a path to purchase that, again, you may not have been able to measure before. And then the last one that we're working very hard on is I did a search, I actually went into the dealer lot. We have some very, very early alpha things that we're doing in the United States to actually help close the loop. So when we think about where Google will be going in the next 5 years, is that the most senior person at Google from an ads, product, and engineering, his name is Sridhar Ramaswamy, is that he is focused on this, is that the last 10 or 15 years have been very simple. I do a search, I go to a landing page, and that transaction happens right there on the device, on the laptop. The next 10 to 15 years from a measurement and attribution standpoint will be I went down one of those 4 or 5 paths, and Google will have the products to allow you to track that stuff. So as you think about how does mobile work for you in the next, or the multi-screen user work for you in the coming years, is that this is something you're going to have to pay attention to. So this is an example of cross-device conversions, one of these concepts. And you can see down here that on average, for auto, there's an increase in 10% of conversions when you start to factor in cross-device. And so again, back to that notion that if you think mobile does not work, are you thinking about all the paths to purchase? And this is aggregate data from customers that are using this product. So it's one example of where you can start to realize more benefit, more value from your mobile marketing campaigns. So as it relates to kind of winning in mobile, very basic example here. And this is a use case or a case study from Chrysler. And basically what Chrysler did, and they came to the realization that back in 2011, they launched their first mobile sites for each of their brands, and admittedly that those were very simply brochureware. They did not have much functionality. That is typically what we see. And again, if you go back into history and you look at what people have done in the internet, is that the early websites were really bad, right? We've gotten far much better at A/B testing and landing page optimization and things of that nature. And that's all these guys did. This is not, and again, you heard from Fabio early on, we're building robots of bees. We've got balloons in the air that are going to go provide internet to a lot of people, and so on and so forth. Those are amazing moonshots. This is basic blocking and tackling. And so they developed a more robust mobile framework for all of their brands that allowed creative flexibility for each brand, but a set of underlying and unified infrastructure to build really nice mobile sites. And when they did it, what a surprise. They saw good positive outcomes: increase in conversion rate, increase in vehicle landing page rate, and decrease in bounce rate. And so again, very, very basic stuff. We're not asking you to build micro robots or driverless cars. It is very simple, just core media and core website development. So I want to show an example also of a customer doing something interesting in mobile as it relates to kind of more on the brand side. So if you can play the video, please. So I'll let Kim do the diagnostics of where that fits in the spectrum of type of branding campaign. The point that I want to make is that there is a very nice, rich palette and canvas on mobile via HTML5. And for those that are here from an agency in the audience, if you do, and I won't ask another rhetorical question, who has HTML5 capabilities in-house, you should understand what HTML5 allows you to do as it relates to just very basic media buying and creative execution. And that is what that is, right? That could be an app, certainly, and have rich functionality. But from a branding standpoint and just very, very basic media execution is understanding how to use HTML5 to build experiences like that. That could be a very simple ad or a landing page. And I think, again, understanding how to do that is important. So as I said, here's the bringing a little bit of what is big and what is important at Google. It's a very simple and basic quote. It's what I said before. This is the man that runs all of ads product at Google, both ads product and engineering, and reports up into Larry. And one of the biggest and most important things, A, is winning in mobile, and B is this concept of the 5 paths to purchase. We call it the full value of mobile, and building those products to give you the insights to make more informed decisions about your media. The couple things that, as it relates to how do you win in mobile ultimately within your organizations, is that I am part of a team that's maybe no more than 20 or 30 people, and part of our job in this beast of a company that is Google, that is 45,000 people, I think we are in a good position from a mobile standpoint. We have a lot of great products and assets, but we are born and bred of the last 10 or 15 years. Our cash cow is the desktop, right? That is where we've made our money in conjunction and partnership with all of you in this room, but we have to push our organization all the time. There are a lot of places where Google has warts, where our products are purely made for desktop and not ready for mobile. And so part of, I think, being successful in mobile is the ability to champion within the organization. I've met with hundreds, if not thousands, of companies over the last couple years talking about mobile, and the one clear differentiator between the companies that get it and are going fast and those that don't are the individuals at the top that are making this a strategic priority. It's very hard for Brendon, as important as I think I am, to go make something happen at Google. You need top-down support. And the way to do that is to tell stories, to sell with data. And so these are resources, Our Mobile Planet, the Mobile Playbook, which is the concept of the full value of mobile, Think Multi-Screen, and then this calculator that are great executions, I think, to help you go tell that story. Use your own internal data. Use our kind of narratives from a marketing standpoint. Use your account teams to help you go tell these stories. It is a constant battle. It is not an easily won battle, but as it relates to the changing organizations and what I think you talked about Starbucks had to do and bring their IT guy in, that is what is required. So if you're sitting there saying, yeah, I get it, mobile's big, mobile's important, but I'm just one person, you gotta keep fighting to make this happen. And I think there's one good salient example of this. And again, we talked about Netflix before, but if you think about the sheer number of conversations that had to happen in that organization, that picture right there is and was the cash cow of Netflix. They used to send out DVDs in the mail. I don't know if that's still happening all that much here, but that was the cash cow. They had marketing, they had sales finance, they had operations, they had quotas. They had all kinds of different infrastructure already established in process on that cash cow. And one day, somebody walks into Reed Hastings' office and says, hey, Reed, I think the pipes are big enough. We should pivot from shipping these things out in the mail, and we're going to go on demand. And somebody was probably like, get out of here. And that person had to go back 37 times. Again, I'm making this up. Imagine the 38th time where they're like, sweet, let's do this. And that is the tenacity that is required. And again, in hindsight, this is a genius move. They just very successfully pivoted. But again, if you look at Blockbuster, they did not pivot. They got paralyzed by this change from technology's cycle to another, held fast and steady with what they did, and they missed the boat. And so this is the ultimate example of wealth creation and destruction, and a very smart move. And so what I'm saying is that this is not easy, but know that, that this is the reality, this is what is going to happen, and it is up to all of us, ourselves, the leadership here at Google, and yourselves as stewards of your businesses to go continue to push and tell this story. It will not happen overnight. It is going to happen over the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and it's going to only get more complex when the Internet of Things happen. But that is the opportunity, that is the risk, and that is ultimately, again, I think the main takeaway that I would want you to understand. So a couple things. Number one, emphasis, inflection. If you're not ready, when do you get ready? And then when you think about that, consider the particularities of the mobile consumer and adapt. Don't shoehorn. Don't take desktop and think you know the consumer and do that perfectly in mobile. Understand what it means to be a mobile consumer of your business. Divine strategies for multi-devices and measure the conversions together. There are 5 paths to purchase. Not everyone's going to apply to you, but this is strategically where we're going as a business. We hope you join us along that ride and understand what are the paths to purchase and measure. Obsess over the behavioral changes to take the step further and lock great potential. This is the risk and the change that we're going to all have to go through. Organizations need to move and adapt. So hopefully, if anything, you got a couple things out of this. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.